So it sounds like the other crew's on the call. I don't know their time frame yet. They might transport them right now. So we might as well start.
Want to start? Sounds good to me. They can join us when they get back, and
If they get back, yep.
if they get back. Okay. Here's a sign-in sheet. Sign. You got a pen?
Yep.
Okay. Do you use, you're all EMT, now are you paramedics?
No, everybody's an EMT in this department.
Everybody, no, who's your, well, who's your, you don't have any paramedics yet, okay. Do you use the, that continuous compression now for CPR?
With advanced airway we do. With advanced airway.
Oh, you do? Okay, all right. Because I know they're teaching that in some places, just the compression's no more breathing into the mouth. I didn't know.
No, that compressions only is only for lay CPR.
Okay, all right.
We have to give rest.
Okay.
Otherwise, the idea is that people are very apprehensive to do CPR on people.
Yeah.
Because of all the communicable diseases and stuff. I mean, it's really pretty low risk, but just contact with body fluids, but people aren't apprehensive to just push on somebody's chest.
Yeah.
So the thought is that at least we're getting the oxygen that's left in the bloodstream is
Yeah.
at least circulating
Okay.
until EMS can arrive, and then we have to continue to supplement that gap.
But with your advanced training there, you use a mask then? That
No,
was-
we use a tube.
The tube, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was in the state patrol for 29 years, a long time ago, and I've been retired 18 years. But we were EMTs at once, but back then they always taught, we had a mask. we
Yeah,
would
yeah.
use.
It changes like yearly or every couple of years,
Yeah.
sort of thing. They're transporting, so it's just us.
Oh, so that means they have to go to Bellingham?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what the chief said, so. No, I was just curious if you, but with your advanced training and stuff, and so that's just for the lay person to keep them going.
Yeah, the hands-on. That's what they're teaching a lot, and they're just trying to keep that circulation up, right?
Sure.
And just perfuse the brain and the heart muscle are the two biggies to keep
Yeah.
that at least alive.
Yeah.
And
Just lessen the loss of tissue.
right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, what they found is that there's still enough oxygen in the blood
Yeah.
to still do some good.
Yeah.
And they found that we have actually been kind of over the years over ventilating people.
Oh, okay.
And they're really trying to cut down on it.
I didn't know
And then
you
we
could
use the system.
overventilate somebody in that situation. But
Well, and so the lungs fill up and they don't fully deflate, and then
Oh.
it prevents the heart from fully expanding to.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Well,
I mean,
okay.
so the pump isn't working, I mean, it's kind of, think about a bellows, if you're doing this, you're not really moving the air, it's the same
Same
sort of
thing.
idea.
Okay.
So we actually use basically a suction cup on their chest. It kind of a fancy little toilet plunger with a little handle, I mean, for lack of a better term, that's kind of how we describe it, and we press down but also pull up, so we create
A vacuum.
an active decompression
Yeah.
on their chest to help that heart muscle, give it a little
Yeah.
bit more to expand, and
So if I was a
Yeah.
lay person, I'm thinking about recertifying it's long expired since I was in the state patrol, but, so if I went to like a fire department, they would just teach us the continuous compression as a lay person.
I don't know.
Not everybody teaches it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a couple of thoughts. There's a hands-only CPR, which is just really just kind of a
Yeah.
it's still that 30 to 2 now compression ratio about the speed,
Yeah.
but they're just having you just continue continue compressions. But I know we teach a CPR class. I don't know that it's like a certified class, but I mean
Once
it's
a month.
Okay.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they teach, and I think they teach a full
They're switching
CPR.
from AHA to a different outfit now.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Okay.
so they're depending on where you go, you might get a different.
Yeah.
It
no,
depends
I'm
on the
just
audience. I
curious.
think what you get taught.
Yeah. I'm just curious and see.
The basic knowledge applies. They just realize that people don't want to stick their mouth on other people.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's understandable nowadays.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Especially with all the
Yeah.
stuff going on in the
Yep.
around our world. So anyway, well, let's get going, and we'll be here about an hour is all. So get this going. And my name is Charlie Schreck. I hadn't even introduced myself yet. I was excited to ask you about the CPR stuff. And this is who we work for. And I think they've done some other training for you, haven't they? Okay, I won't spend any time on that. I'm part-time with them. I'm not an attorney. This is just a disclaimer. So you're getting no legal advice today. Purely risk management. We're just going to talk about some things that get people to, it's just good common sense. Most of this stuff is things we've heard before, but just to keep us thinking in that line about risk management, what's good. If we do a little different way, maybe we can reduce the risk for yourselves and your organization, for the fire department, stuff like that. So it's one of our more popular programs just because, well, you've seen the news, all the stuff going on, all the sexual harassment, all this stuff going on nowadays, which has been going on for a long time, but how it's all really coming to a head. And what we're going to talk about today is professionalism, but we're going to mainly focus on some bullying and sexual harassment in the workplace, because those are really as far as internal things that can go wrong in an organization, those are really the high liability. In fact, this morning, I don't know if I still have that slide on here. Yesterday morning, I grew up in Spokane, and I still read the Spokane paper, but fire departments aren't the only ones to deal with it. No occupation is exempt from this stuff. Yeah. We had stuff going on in the state patrol, and every occupation has this stuff going on. But the headlines in the Spokane paper yesterday morning were firefighters.
I just read that there's like five or six.
Yeah, 5 or 6
bullying and hazing stuff.
Yeah.
Although they're claiming it's kind of a very one-sided investigation.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, they're talking about. I follow it just from the union side. The union.
Yeah.
Waiting for the Loudermill to kind of be able to get the whole thing out. So there's probably. I mean, as always, there's always a little bit more to the story.
Oh, absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So,
yeah, I just read it when it first came out yesterday, and I was reading between the lines. It sounded like there's more to the story that's they're waiting to come out. But I thought, I told my wife's with me. She's over at the hotel. I said, well, that was timely. It just popped up on the paper. That's exactly what I'm talking to them about. So, anyway, we'll see how that one comes out. But we had it in the patrol stuff going on like that, especially when I was hired on when they hired the first female trooper back in the 1970s, late 70s, and and it happens in every department. But when they start evolving, females come into the male-dominated occupation, it was just like when men went into the nursing occupation, became male nurses. They were harassed and intimidated. So anyway, this is what we're going to talk about today, and we always start with this slide, and it's just a good reminder that it's kind of interpersonal lives and even at work. The key to success is knowing how to get along with people. And it's not, life isn't a one-way street. Professional work environment, this is a definition that most people use for professional work environment, and it's just that working relationship you have with everybody, your peers, your administrators, and your community. And that's the key to success, is just maintaining that professionalism. And because you in the fire service, like we were in the state patrol, the medical profession, the clergy, even our politicians, they never get in trouble, but we're all in those high-profile occupations where we're held to higher standards in the community by the community, by the laws, by the courts, by everybody, just because we provide services to the community. We're a service organization, and they hold us to higher standards, and they expect more out of us. And it goes to, we talk about that duty of ordinary care, but we're your fire service employees 24/7. You're always representing your agency, aren't you? Even off duty. And we can't, even when I was in the state patrol, they told us the same thing. When you get to your community, be careful, because you need to set a good example, because the community's watching you 24/7, on and off duty. And so it's something that follows us around, and especially nowadays with the social media. Even at Christmas, people are always videotaping or recording people doing stuff, and things have really changed since I was in the patrol. But say I've been out almost 18 years now. And social media has even changed that occupation a lot. I know it has yours too. Those guys now, we'd get a call and you wouldn't know where the darn address was, you know, and out east of Spokane Valley, now they got GPS, takes them right to where they need to go, and it's a lot different. And then professionalism, just anytime there's that violation of professionalism in the workplace, it can create havoc. And I know you went through, I know somebody said they've been talking about it in every class, but 5, 6, 7 years ago, some folks here stepped down, didn't they, for bullying issues or something was going on?
Well, we had a kind of a chief that had been that long ago, but that was part of his issue.
Yeah.
But we've had a couple of things. We've had a fairly recent thing that came up here, kind of had to be dealt with. So yeah, it creates a lot of stress in the department. People gossip and start, you know, rumors get flying and all kinds of stuff goes on. So anyway, everybody deals with it, every occupation. I do a lot of training for the school districts too, and teachers, and the stuff that they deal with in trying to manage their classrooms and personnel issues and things like that. And it's tough, especially with the social media. But anyway, you all as employees, managers, as your organization, everybody has the right to work in a safe and civil work environment. And when there's violations of that, again, it creates stress and everything else. What we do here is, you don't need to write anything down. There's a bunch of you, we have you to split up and write stuff down. But what we talk about is what traits make a professional group. And each of us has professional traits that we believe are important. Do you have just a couple of thoughts on you? What are important to you for professionalism in the workplace, characteristics? I mean, we talk about, you know, professionalism, courteous, treating people with courtesy, respect, stuff like that. What do you think? Integrity. Integrity.
Integrity, absolutely. Honesty, we talk about. Trustworthiness. Who brought up something this morning? One of the guys brought up, how about being on time to work? Yeah, it's one of those basic things I think everybody figures out, but some people, you know, we used to have troopers that were late signing in service all the time, you know. All you gotta do is go out in your patrol car in your driveway and sign in service and you're at work. How difficult is that?
Everybody is late.
You what?
Well, I think there's people that tend to, we have an on time, like, I mean, we start at 8.
Yeah.
But most of us show up, you know, 15, 20 minutes early typically. I mean, we got to change out of our cities and get our gear on the floor and put groceries away. I mean, you know, we obviously pack for a 24-hour shift.
Yeah.
You know, some people are 7:45 and some people are 7:55.
Yeah.
So, and you know, we're a 24-hour service organization. So when it's called 7:45 and your relief's not here, you kind of get hooped with, you know, the call versus getting to go home. I mean, when you're here early,
you get dumped on.
People get yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that was for somebody's benefit.
My son's with the Olympia Fire Department, and he says the same thing. He tries to be there between a half hour and 15 minutes early because the next people are getting off shift.
Yeah.
And he says, I get dumped on once in a while too. Somebody gets there 5 minutes before their shift and you get a call at 1:45. Well,
yeah.
Somebody's got to go.
Yeah.
So.
It happens, but yeah.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. So. Anyway, but those are the things that are important, and when we go through these, you'll see those things come out. And then here's the general rule too, and this applies too mainly to off-duty. That's when you are off-duty conduct, and it's a general rule that employees can be disciplined for off-duty conduct if it has a negative impact on you and your organization and your ability to serve in the community. And a lot of this goes to social media. And I live in Olympia now, and someday I'll get back to Eastern Washington, but I can't, the last few years, I can't tell you how many Seattle police officers have been fired up there because of posting inappropriate posts on their personal Facebook pages. They get out in the community and they notice it's a police officer, discriminatory comments and things like that, and it has a negative impact on the officer and the police department. So that is a true statement, depending on what the situation is, but somebody could technically be disciplined for off-duty conduct if it has that negative impact. Then workplace ethics. Ethics, and those are just those rules of behavior on, kind of our moral compass, what's morally good and what's morally bad. We each have that moral compass. And then here's a favorite quote. Remember who John Wooden was? Basketball coach at UCLA. He was a real famous, I think he still holds the record for NCAA basketball tournament, national championships. But he was really considered more of a teacher than a coach. But if you ever want to get some good quotes, Google John Wooden quotes. And he's got a whole pyramid of success. He has written several books and stuff. But here's one of his more famous quotes, and talks about ethics in the workplace and stuff. But he used to tell his players, be more concerned about your character rather than your reputation, because your character is really who you are. And the things that you do when nobody else is around, that's who you really are, and that's your character. Your reputation is just what people think of you. But he used to tell his players that. But he had a lot of good quotes in there if you're ever interested in looking those things up. This guy here, Darryl Brown, he's has a master's degree, or a doctor's degree, I'm sorry, in business administration. I think he's at the University of Indiana. But he came up with his 10 golden rules for ethics in the workplace for people to think about. And again, these are just things to think about, to consider. And when we go through that professionalism in the workplace, most of the group comes up with most of these ideas anyway. But here's our strive for excellence in the workplace every day. Be trustworthy and be accountable for your actions. We all screw up once in a while, right? Be accountable for those actions, learn from them and move on. Be courteous and respectful. Be honest, open, and transparent. Competent and improve. Be ethical, honorable, and act with integrity. Respectful and of confidentiality, especially if you have a lot of confidential information you deal with too. And set good examples for your organization and in the community. Now, have you ever had to testify on any litigation issues for for the fire department?
Not for here. Not for here.
Not for here? Someplace else, did you?
Yeah, I worked for the sheriff's office.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I did.
Yeah. Well, if you ever, and you've been in those, but what determines liability is that duty of ordinary care you have as a firefighter or deputy, or in my job when I was in the patrol, there's a breach of that duty, there's damages to individuals or property. Then they find out the cause, and that's how they determine liability. And the attorneys, if you're ever involved in any litigation here through your organization, you're being sued or in litigation for something that happened. Usually every organization will be eventually, but first thing the attorneys do is come in with their subpoenas or public records requests, and they get all of your policies and procedures and go through them, determine, if you have policies in place to cover whatever you're doing. And then they'll find out the answers to 3 questions, and that's what did you know, when did you know it, and what did you do about it? Did you follow your policies and procedures? And that's how they determine liability for when they get in and resolve any litigation in court. That's where the attorneys start. And that's just a silly slide about that's not my job for professionalism about the road painter. This whole thing and what we talk about here is just being proactive, and the only one we can control is ourselves. And whenever there's any conflict or anything going on in the workplace, the first place we have to start is ourselves. How are we contributing to it, either in a positive or a negative way? Are you being proactive? And it just involves looking at the workplace climate management's role and keeping a safe and civil work environment. The management's role, and the courts have ruled that your management of Whatcom County North Fire District is responsible for maintaining a safe and civil work environment. And if things go south here, there's harassment or something going on and they don't do anything about it, the agency can be held responsible for it. And they do it through hiring practices. You have what? Yours probation, don't you? Your organization, yeah. And that's part of the selection process, getting people in and who belong. If they don't fit in that year, then it's time to get rid of them. Orientation, probation, and then management sets clear expectations, policies, and procedures, and then they model the expected behavior. So they set the tone for the whole organization. Management does, the environment, what's right and what's wrong. Then employees, of course, they're held responsible for knowing the policies. Are your policies and procedures, are they in written form, or a lot of them are on the internet? They keep them?
We have some policies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say we have a manual by any means. I mean, I don't think we're any different than most organizations. I mean.
Now, when you hire on here, do they train you here, or do you go to the fire academy?
Currently, we send them to the State Fire Academy.
That's the one out of North Bend?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Then workplace climate, that's just not about how you are doing your job, it's your job skills and how you do them and your working relationship with everybody. Attitude, aptitude. If you had to pick one over the other, what would you pick in hiring personnel?
Attitude.
All right.
You want to say attitude. You can teach them the aptitude.
Yeah. Yeah, most people agree that if they're both important, but if you had to pick, somebody had a good attitude and poor aptitude, I'd take the one with the good attitude. If you had to pick between the two, because you can teach them the skills and stuff. But if they have a poor attitude, that usually keeps them from learning too much too. Core values shape our civility, and that's just how we treat each other. Here's a list of things, behaviors that breach that professionalism in the workplace, and everything from discrimination, intimidation, foul language, all these kinds of conduct that can create havoc in the workplace. And I'm sure your organization has dealt with them, everybody does. Bullying, intimidation, sexual harassment. Oh, here's that thing from, this is that one from the Spokesman Review. They said in the paper, it just said name calling, guy talk, off-color jokes were reported. So yeah, we'll have to follow that and see how that comes out, see what else develops from those allegations. This is a bullying video I want you to watch, and again, I don't know what the situation was here. It's about a 6-minute video, but it's just bullying in the workplace, and this just deals with adult-to-adult bullying, which is very common now. They say it's much more common than sexual harassment in the workplace. And there's no laws against adult-to-adult bullying in the workplace unless it rises to that level of a felony harassment where somebody is bullied to the point where they feel physically threatened, that their life's in danger. Let's take a look at this. It's about 6 or 7 minutes, I think.
File this under strange but true. 3
Is that loud enough?
agents are being fired because one gave the Three Stooges-style noogie to a federal prosecutor. Now, as ridiculous as that case sounds, workplace bullying is no laughing matter. It's growing at such an alarming rate that lawmakers are getting involved, and researchers say that the emotional toll is costly to the employee and also to the business. Here's more from our Chris Paul.
Hi, Miranda. You've seen it in the movies. Pick up my shoes from Monica and then go get Patricia. And according to a new survey, nearly 40% of American workers have witnessed workplace bullying in real life. Ruth was bullied at work, fought back, and was put on administrative leave.
She would follow me in the hall, she would follow me to the bathroom. It really became a large harassment.
That's when she started the Workplace Bullying Institute to get people talking.
I had no one to talk to. I had no one that understood. It goes on, but it's not recognized. People need to become aware. They need to become aware this is happening because it's kind of a silent epidemic.
72% of bullies are bosses, and women are more likely to be victims than men. But women can be bullies too. Those who are 2.5 times more likely to target their own kind over a man.
When women bully other women, they do it because these women are a threat to them.
But there's been progress. Anti-bullying legislation has been introduced in 13 states since 2003.
It is more common than sexual harassment. Bullying is not against the law, and because it's under the radar, people get away with it. My guest is our workplace contributor, Tori Johnson. Good morning, Tori. Good morning. So many people are wondering, what is the difference between someone really being tough as a boss or down and out bullying?
It's an important distinction because the reality is a boss has every right to criticize your work, complain about your performance, get angry when you're repeatedly late. So those things on their own, don't constitute bullying. It's when, however, the words and actions of a boss, a coworker, anyone that you work with, are intended to harm you professionally by being humiliating, embarrassing. When there's an attempt to embarrass, humiliate, intimidate you, really with an effort to undermine or enable you to suffer professionally. So it goes beyond just simply being critical of somebody. It's way beyond being critical.
Some people might not understand that distinction. They might just think that somebody's being really tough on them.
That's right.
And they might not grasp the severity of it all.
That's right. And it's often the way in which someone chooses to be tough on you.
Give us an example.
Sure. So, I could, for example, if I were to exclude you from an email distribution once, that's probably an oversight. I didn't mean to do it. If, however, I repeatedly exclude you from meetings, from emails, withholding information from you that I know you need in order to do your job effectively, that's a bully tactic. If we are in a meeting together and you say something, there's a couple of reactions. One is I can smirk and sort of say, unbelievable, and turn my face at you. I don't have to agree with what you say, but the way that I respond to you often determines am I just being rude, meaning that's not a great idea, or if I make a smirk and say, you moron, and I try to belittle and embarrass you, where'd you come up with that ridiculous idea? Do you know what I mean? There's a difference. So you don't have to agree with somebody's ideas, you don't have to support their way of thinking, but the way in which you respond often is an indicator of, am I just being rude and dismissive of you, or is it a bully tactic?
And people do this more than we think.
So much more than we think. Nearly 40% of workers say that they have been bullied. What that tells me is that's a lot of people, and it means that other people are witnessing this. And so not only are there some steps that you can take to sort of stop a bully in his or her tracks, and I say his or her because the majority of bullies are actually women, so we tend to think of like the bully as the man.
Really?
But women are big bullies, and so it's important that you either stop them in their tracks. If you're somebody who is witnessing a bully, you know in your workplace, if there's somebody who's sort of like the office bully, and if that person typically has 1 or 2 targets that they always go after, speak up, say something. You see something, say something. Help to be a part of the solution.
What happens if the bully is your manager?
If the bully is your manager, there's still a lot of very specific things that you can do, whether it's a manager or a coworker. One is, if you feel like you can maintain your composure, try to nip it on the spot. And by that I mean when somebody starts in with you and starts saying those things, talking to you in a manner in which is just totally unacceptable, you can say, please don't speak to me that way. I am professional and cordial to you, and I expect the same in return. Most bullies bully because they can, and once they're called on it, many studies show that they stop. They're embarrassed themselves to have been called on it, but if they're never called on it, they keep on doing it. And when you don't call them on it, you in many ways are giving them permission to continue doing it.
What happens if it just doesn't let up?
If it doesn't let up, which often happens, if it doesn't let up and you feel like you've done everything possible, you've documented it, you've talked to everybody, often at the end of the day, it means getting a new job. If you feel like your mental health and your self-esteem are in jeopardy, it's time to look for a new opportunity. It's much easier to look for feeling that, oh, maybe it's just me, and you see that some of these symptoms that we're talking about are evident in your life, in your workplace, it's not just you. It's not just you. Don't allow yourself to feel that way and to feel like you're not worthy simply because someone else is trying to make you feel that way. Well, Tori is always trying to.
Anyway, that's the main thing there is, I think what they get across too is the thing about bullying, and we're going to talk about sexual harassment too, is when it's going on in the workplace, there's a lot of witnesses, and I don't know the situation you went through several years ago, whatever that was, but I understand from talking to some of the people, just to comment, that there were some witnesses, and finally everybody kind of came together and resolved the situation. You know, there's so many times the witnesses see this stuff going on, and other people know who the bully is and what's going on, or the sexual harassment that's going on, and nobody gets involved and supports the victim. And that's that duty of ordinary care that they talk about that we have. And of course, if we don't support the victim, who are we supporting? The bully, the aggressor. So it's important to come to and support the victim in these types of issues. Just a few things on sexual harassment, and the thing about sexual harassment, again, the courts have ruled, and if somebody's being sexually harassed, the courts used to rule that they have to confront the aggressor. The court, when it would go to court, the courts would say, well, did you put them on notice? But the courts have ruled, because not everybody has that in their character to stand up to somebody. It's just like a bully. But they do require that you report it to somebody in your organization, either your HR or your supervisor or somebody that you're being harassed or intimidated. But the thing about sexual harassment is that, and the bottom line is how it's received by somebody. If they feel they're being harassed or offended by the jokes or the comments that are going on, that's all that matters. We can have good intentions, but if somebody feels harassed by us, that's the bottom line that they use to make those determinations. It's how it's received, not the intention. So, sexual harassment defined: it must be unwelcome, must be of a sexual nature, of course, and it must be frequent and severe. I can make one rude comment or an inappropriate comment that might offend somebody, but that's not sexual harassment. Because it's sexual harassment, just like bullying, it has to be frequent and severe. Now, I could probably make one comment that would be severe enough that it would be considered sexual harassment, and one gesture, but usually it's frequent, it's severe, and it alters their working environment. They feel harassed and intimidated. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to adjust this just a second. Frequent and severe, and then the working definition. All three of these must be present in the definition of sexual harassment. Must be some language of a sexual nature. Must be unwelcome by the other person, and it could be expected to alter the conditions of the victim's employment, making them uncomfortable, intimidated, harassed, staying home on sick leave, things like that. Any questions on that, on those definitions? Or unwelcome is also the key here, and that can involve a third-party complaint too. In other words, you and I are bantering back and forth, and somebody overhears us in the lunchroom, and then they feel offended by it. That could be harassment. Or it could be too, we use the example of a superior. My boss is making inappropriate comments or jokes to me, a subordinate, and I feel obligated to laugh at the boss's jokes. I don't want to piss the boss off at me. So those are a couple where it's unwelcome, but you're afraid to come forward just due to the situation, or it's a third-party situation. The sexual harassment conduct, it can be verbal or written. Comments about their clothing, their body, telling rumors about a person's personal sexual life, things like that. All of these things could be sexual harassment. Could be physical, assaulting somebody or impeding or blocking their movement, hugging, stroking, patting, just inappropriate touching somebody. and nonverbal. And that's the thing too about sexual harassment, bullying. People can bully or sexually harass somebody without saying a word to them. Just looking them up and down, gestures like that, following them. And then of course visual, posters, drawings, pictures. In fact, they had it was in the local paper, one trooper, I think it was over in Eastern Washington, you know, they all, like you do, have computers in your trucks, right? He had an inappropriate screensaver on his laptop in his patrol car. It's kind of funny, it's serious, he got in pretty big trouble for it. But the complainant was a passenger he put in the back seat, and he was out investigating the accident. He rested and his screensaver popped up. The passenger in the back seat saw it, and that's who the complainant was. But he got in trouble over that. Quid pro quo, hostile work environment. Quid pro quo is that saying something for something, and that's usually a power thing between a supervisor and a subordinate. You do this for me, and I'll give you a promotion or a pay raise or better evaluations, things like that. Factors to consider in the workplace, and the factors to consider if these things are going on, first of all, it's your leadership in the workplace, in your organization. They set the tone through policies, procedures. And for sexual harassment and bullying in the workplace and other hostile work environments should be zero tolerance. There's no room for bullying or sexual harassment in the workplace. But they set the tone. It has to come from the top down. And then rarity, that's exactly what the fire service, law enforcement, military, all of those organizations have gone through. It's when the opposite gender joins the dominant group. I was in the patrol, and I think it was the late 70s when they hired the first female trooper. There were about 800 males. That's rarity. And that is kind of like the perfect storm. There's going to be harassment and sexual harassment, it's just a perfect environment for that to happen. And say the military's going through it, or has gone through it, and they still are. And the patrol, I remember they got sued several times. From even sergeants getting involved in stuff with female troopers. I mean, it's pretty well resolved now. They have a lot of troopers that are female troopers in the patrol now. And I think you have, what, 2 or 3 firefighters?
2 right now, full-time, but we've had 4 or 5 females at one point. I mean, you know, it just kind of varies, but
Sure.
we had a few leave, retire, etc.
Yeah.
But we have 2, I think, right now, right? Leslie
Yeah.
Hyman?
We ran the others out.
That's a joke. That's a joke.
But you know, the men went through it too. When the men started going into the nursing profession, they were harassed and intimidated by the females trying to take over their occupation. But you know, it happens both sides. In fact, the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, who tracks all that information, sexual harassment complaints by men has been going up every year. So it's just not about women anymore. Men get harassed and intimidated too. A lot more women managers and CEOs and everything than there used to be. So it goes both ways. Then the third thing is priming, and that happens, again, it goes back to leadership. If your organization or your department allows this stuff to go on, sexual harassment, bullying, intimidation, all this stuff to go on, they don't do anything about it, what are they doing? They're telling the bullies and sexual harassers it's okay to do that. And they're allowing it to happen. It becomes part of their culture. Just a few things on managing. Any questions on bullying, sexual harassment, that kind of stuff? Managing conflict in the workplace. That's really your job, isn't it? Being in the fire service, man, you help a lot of people in conflict, right? That was our job. And that was the thing about the patrol and fire. We were always jealous of the fire department. You probably were when you were a deputy, right?
Well, I'm sitting here.
He was both,
Yeah.
but he was both at the same time.
Yeah.
You what?
I've been doing both for a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, but the patrol, you know, we'd get to these scenes, you know, whatever the situation, traffic accidents or domestic violence and stuff, and the fire department shows up and everybody says, thank God the fire department's here. Then the patrol shows up. What do they say?
Yeah.
Oh
shit, the cops.
Yeah, the cops are here. Nobody's happy to see us. But anyway, conflict in the workplace increases tension, stress, sick leave goes up, people become aggressive, passive aggressive, productivity goes down. Maybe you experienced some of this when you've had conflict in the workplace. But if we can keep a constructive conflict, then we can usually get something out of it. Maybe we need to change policies and procedures, deal with it in a constructive way rather than destructive, and it helps. People can disagree but still work together, mutual agreement. These are just some examples of constructive conflict, how to handle it. Agree to disagree, and always demonstrate respect and model that. But the main thing is putting those working relationships ahead of everything else, maintaining those relationships. You have to maintain that working relationship. Behaviors for positive, constructive conflict: people listen, compromise, be respectful, be professional, look for win-win situations. And then of course destructive is just the opposite. Gossip, rumors, blaming, everybody's pointing the finger at everybody else. It's all your fault. Cliques form, people become aggressive. It's bad enough conflict without having it destructive too. Here's just some examples of causes of conflict. There's no millennials in here, right?
No.
I've had 2 of them. Everybody, in my last training session, when this comes up, they all point. I had yesterday I had 2 different sessions. Your young firefighters were there. They started, everybody's giving them a bad time. But anyway, age, culture, experience, values, and beliefs. These all causes for conflict. And then organizational conflict. Your changes, go through changes, goals, limited resources. All these things cause conflict in the workplace. And people's needs and their communication styles. Here's just some examples of what employees, some of their needs in the workplace that they like. Of course, they can't have everything. I'll tell them that. Just some examples of what needs are that people need in work. In any conflict, any conflicting situations in the workplace or issues going on, the first place we have to look at is ourselves in the mirror. How are we going to contribute to it? And that's a decision we can make, either in a constructive way or destructive. We're going to turn to gossip and rumors, or we're going to be constructive and deal with it professionally and find a solution to move on, find a win-win situation. So it's our choice to make. Constructive or destructive. Again, look at yourself. How are you contributing to the problem in a positive or a negative way? And here's just 4 conflict resolution skills, recommendations. If there is conflict in the workplace, try to keep it stress-free or stress-free. Quickly relieve that stress. Stay centered and in control of yourself. Recognize and manage problems, your emotions, not problems, and emotional control is so important in dealing with conflict. And I equate that back to my patrol days, because when people were always trying to push our buttons when we stopped them for one reason or another, calling your names and pushing your buttons and stuff like that. Go back, take a deep breath, write the ticket out in your patrol car, and try to get control of yourself again so you don't say something and get yourself in trouble. But yeah, just stay in control of yourself, your feelings, improve your nonverbal communication skills, calm voice, expressions, things like that. And if it's appropriate, use a little humor once in a while. Laugh with them, not at them. Keep things in perspective. Don't blow things out of proportion. Again, make that relationship your priority by respecting and maintaining and strengthening that relationship that you have with them. Here's some tips. Again, focus on the present issue. Learn from the past. Don't drag up all the garbage that's happened in the past. Try not to blame. And pick your battles. Is it really worth the conflict? Is this really worth the trouble, our time and energy to deal with this stuff? And just be willing to forgive and move on. Let things pass and let things go. Agree to disagree. Nothing wrong with that. And help other employees how to communicate. Constructive conflict, that's what we're after. Just a couple things on communication. These are just 5 suggestions: listening, opinions, cues. We'll talk about them just briefly. Have you ever talked to somebody, been in conversation with somebody, and they're sitting there punching on their iPhone? Yeah, that's not active listening, is it?
Sorry, Mike.
All right. You what?
It's everywhere in life.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
It's funny you say that. I find myself do that a lot. Lots of communication with side businesses and my heavy activity in the union, so there's lots of communication. I try to stay. I mean, I get notices and I try to screen them. You know, oh, this is really important. I'm sorry, I got to take this type of thing in balance. But
Yeah.
you know, because sometimes I'm just so busy I can't. I mean, if I'm in the middle of a call, I don't. They just have to stand by.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the priority. But if I'm here and we're shooting the bull, I might have to look. And so I catch myself doing. I know I'm a heavy phone user, and I know it's disrespectful to people. I try not to make it an issue. I don't like, oh yeah, and, you know, I'm over here on my social media, but I tend to look at my phone quite a bit. So it's funny. I just apologize because I know I'm that guy.
Well, we all
So,
do it. And
yeah.
I'll tell you what's really irritating to you is my grandchildren do it. I mean, these grandkids now that are growing up in this social media, they're on their phones all the time. And I've done it. And I think what's the worst thing about it, like in your job, it might be very essential at times. But you know, it's the perception that it sends too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I catch myself a lot doing that, and I always explain to people, hey, just so you know, I'm not texting a friend. I'm looking something up, or I'm trying to get some information because, you know, our dispatch stuff is available on our phones, and
Sure.
medical reference and that sort of thing. Oh, I don't know what that medication for. What's the interaction for that?
Yeah.
But I always try to explain that to people because that is a huge.
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting with somebody and they're like, what could be so important that you're on your phone? And I tell them, no, this is for you. This is based on your needs. And
no, it is a big distraction, and you're right. It's you know, and it is. It's it really interrupts the whole process. When I worked for the superintendent of public instruction for a while after I retired from the state patrol, and we were interviewing a person for the position that I was leaving when I retired from there. And there was, I think, 4 of us on the board. You know, it was for a director's position at OSPI. And this one gentleman came in, and he's sitting there, and about halfway through, his darn cell phone goes off. And he picked it right up and answered it right during the interview. And it kind of told us what his priorities were. I mean, why not leave the thing out in the car for a half hour going to the interview? But no, and it was nothing. He just said, oh, I'll call you back later. Stuffed it back in his pocket and said, sorry about that. And we thought, well, you're going to be sorry because we aren't hiring you. But anyway, active listening. Focus on the person you're speaking with, and you know, maintain that eye contact. Encouraging not either, you know, agreeing with people or nodding, you know, but making them feel comfortable. And then you're going to run into people with dissenting opinions, different than yours. And doesn't mean you agree with them, but give them the opportunity. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And it may be their opinion, they're still trying to get to the same place you are, it's just a different way of getting there. Give them a shot. Watch your cues, how you present yourself. your body language, how you come across that way, and contribute proportionately. Sometimes I know I do at times, but maybe monopolize the conversation or a meeting or something, and you might need to scale back a little bit if needed. Let other people share their ideas and have some input into the conversation. Then the really important one is speak only what you know is true in your conversations. Whatever you're talking about, dealing with during work, but similar to gossip, harms the organization and destructive behavior. If you have a piece of paper, I want you to write something down. This has to do, this is just a fun thing to do. It has to do with active listening. And I'm going to flash a slide up in that triangle. And I just want you to write down the words that you see. It's just a common phrase. And I'll leave it up there for about 3 seconds. Just look at it and write it down. It's not a test, just write that down. What'd you see? What'd you write down?
Walk in the park.
Walk in the park.
Yeah. What's it say?
A walk in the park.
Read it again. Real slow.
A walk in the park.
Don't feel bad. Everybody does. This is my third day here, and I've had one person catch that. I mean, everybody does it. You write down exactly. Everybody does that.
Yeah.
So you didn't do it. The point is your mind. When you're talking to people, your mind automatically throws out
The unnecessary.
the unnecessary stuff that it deems
The second
isn't important.
The second thought was not important for me to write down what I wrote down.
I know, yeah, and your mind does that unconsciously. You don't even see it. I had to look at that slide. I did the same thing. They showed that to me about 3 times before I picked it up. I thought, what do you mean? It's a walk in the park. No, they said, read it slowly. But it's just a thing that your mind does when you're talking to people. And if you're distracted and doing something else and trying to communicate with somebody. Our detectives, and maybe they did in the sheriff's office too, when people become detectives in the state patrol, they went through a lot of training like that in communicating with people and really listening to people and what they say and pick up on little comments they say or things that their mind might otherwise discard, and they might miss it. They might miss it. But it's a fun thing. Show that to some of your family members or something. Write that down and have them flash it up in front of them and see what they write down. But everybody writes down a walk in the park. It's a common phrase. Your mind just throws out that other and the that's up there. Anyway, your communication, your body language, when you're communicating with people, your body language too tells about 55% of your communicates about 55% of what you're trying to say. Just how you hold your body language, how you come across to people. Just some healthy responses to conflict, recognize and respond to issues. These are kind of repetitive, but unhealthy inability to recognize that people withdraw, they expect bad outcomes, and some people just don't deal with conflict. They just let it fester and ignore it. That's the worst thing we can do. Got to talk to who the conflict is with, when, hopefully sooner the better, and at a comfortable location. Recognize problems, engage in intervention, specify the questionable behavior, confront conflict. Documentation, you do a lot of reports, but I know, I can't tell you how many times in my career I've heard judges say if it's not documented, I have a hard time believing it happened. How do you remember what happened 6, 8, 9 months ago unless you documented it? Just to wrap it up, recognize problem areas that may challenge your professionalism. Be self-analytical because you're the only one you can control. And don't do anything that will tarnish your own professionalism and help others that may not get it. Any questions? That's all I, short and sweet today. Short and sweet.
Dynamite, thank you.
All right?
Thank you.
Did Chief Hollander give you some direction on how to shut the camera off?
He said he does it.
Okay.
Yeah, he said, I think he said he was monitoring it and he can turn it off where he is.
Perfect. Okay.
Is what I believe, so, anyway.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you.
texting my officer to let him know we're done.
You're what?
Texting my officer to let him know.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't know when they'll make it up, maybe he'll just use the recording.
I think that
I think
was
that's what he was
the
going to
plan,
do,
yeah.
so, yeah. Well, I'll be here tomorrow one more day, then I'm heading back to Olympia, so. I have had a guy, one of your, oh, he's a Lieutenant Rio?
Yep.
Yeah,
Today.
yeah, he was in my session this morning. His dad was retired from the patrol, we used to work together, his dad's name's Al Rio.
Oh.
Yeah, his dad was a trooper over in Ritzville when I was in Spokane working.
I can't believe I've known DJ this long and I didn't know his dad was a trooper.
Yeah, he was a detective in the auto theft division when he retired from the patrol.
Oh,
He was in
okay.
auto theft, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, over in East Side. And then he came over here to Olympia, and that's how they ended up over here. But, yeah,
Okay.
Al retired, I think he retired about the same time I did. I think we were hired on about the same time, too. Been a long time ago now, but.
Are you packing up or is that crew coming here?
What's
You
that?
know, are you packing up and leaving?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Where are they now?
Still in Bellingham.
Yeah. No, I think that's why the chief was recording this. He'll just have them watch this or
Yeah.
something, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
All right, take
Thank you.
care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to keep this?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just checking.
No.
Gonna.
Notice how I left a blank after the, so there's a little bit. Do you see that?
You know that's funny? I have a space between in
That's
and
funny.
the. I don't know why I did that, but I wrote it down with the
He has a
space.
slight space there, and I have a slight space after.
They walk in the, oh yeah, 'cause
And I have a
they
slight
drop-
I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Because
one.
we were in tune to that, we were leaving it out.
No, sure,
Yeah.
sure we were. We had no clue. Let's be honest. But it's those you ever done those kind of those exercises where the words are jumbled.
Yeah.
And if the letters are right and the first and last letter is right, you can read an entire sentence that really is just gibberish.
Yeah.
Or when they write the words backwards and you read them.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Yeah, your mind does funny things to you. It does, yeah. Well, have a good day, fellas.
You too. Thank you very
Excellent,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go out and look at this highly polished,
Oh, it's not that great, but
looks good from this.
yeah, it's good. It definitely has some paint issues.